You're being too sensitive. It's her day, not yours. My wife hissed through her perfectly whitened teeth, not even turning to look at me. Her voice sliced through the noise of clinking glasses and camera shutters like a scalpel across raw skin. Her day? It was our son's wedding. And yet, there I was. No toast, no seat at the family table, no mention in the speeches. Just a shadow in the crowd, like some distant uncle no one remembers inviting. The father of the groom reduced to a bystander while Madison, the woman I had built a life with, basked in all the attention, glued to her phone more than our son's vows. She looked stunning, of course. Always did. Blonde hair styled to perfection, dress hugging every curve she knew men still drooled over. But under that beauty was a venom that I'd long chosen to ignore. And tonight, it bled through every smirk, every dismissive wave of her manicured hand. I stood in the corner with a half-finished drink, watching her laugh with a man I didn't recognize. A bit too close. A hand on her lower back. His lips near her ear. She laughed like a schoolgirl. Light, free, like nothing I said or did mattered anymore. That was the moment. Not when I found the messages. Not when the hotel receipt, for work, didn't match her itinerary. Not when she came home smelling like someone else's cologne and claimed it was a tester from Macy's. No, it was that laugh. That careless, giddy, betrayal-laced laugh on the most important day of our son's life. When she turned to get a refill, I approached. "Who's the guy?" I asked, voice calm. Too calm. Madison rolled her eyes and looked past me like I was some buzzkill wedding crasher. "Why do you always have to ruin things, Eric?" Ruin things? I'd paid for half the wedding. I'd raised our son while she was off at yoga retreats and weekend wellness seminars in Napa Valley. I'd swallowed my doubts for years, believing in the picture-perfect illusion we painted on Christmas cards. That illusion shattered right there on the dance floor. I didn't argue. I didn't create a scene. I didn't need to. Something inside me cracked, quietly, definitively, like a bone under pressure finally giving way. 3 days later, I packed a bag, told no one, and booked a flight to Montana. No warning. No goodbye. No note. I left her the silence she deserved. But silence doesn't stay silent for long. On the third morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. Then 63. Then over 100. My phone pulsed like a bomb, each vibration tighter than the last. I didn't answer. Not yet. I walked out onto the deck of the remote lodge I'd rented. Snow dusted the trees. A heavy stillness blanketed the forest, like nature itself had hit pause to witness what was coming. I sat with my coffee, stared at the horizon, and finally opened the first voicemail. It was my sister, Claire. "Eric, I don't know what's going on, but Madison's freaking out. She said something about a private investigator calling the house. And, wait, she said she was just talking to the guy at the wedding. Are you okay? You really need to call me." Private investigator? The second voicemail was from Madison. "Eric, this is childish. I don't know what game you're playing, but you've made your point. Call me back. We need to talk." The third message, though, that's the one that told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't even a voicemail. It was a video. Accidentally sent, maybe. Maybe not. It was her and that same guy from the wedding. In a hotel room. Her laugh again, now laced with something darker. She whispered, "I told you he wouldn't notice. Eric's too busy pretending we still have a marriage." I paused it there. I didn't need to hear what came next. I knew what that look meant. I'd seen it before, but never directed at someone else. My chest was ice. Not fire. Not rage. Just frozen disbelief. I was done pretending. This was no longer a matter of suspicion. No room left for denial, or therapy, or long conversations about reconnecting. She wasn't a stranger who had lost her way. She was a liar. A manipulator. And the worst kind of traitor. The one who smiles while twisting the knife. And now? Now it was my turn to laugh. Because I'd already made the first move. And the next one would leave them both begging. I didn't call her back. Instead, I let the silence stretch. Let her wonder. Let her sweat. Every minute she didn't know what I knew was another win in my book. For once, I was ahead of her lies. The lodge was quiet. Just the hum of the heater and the occasional crack of firewood shifting in the stone fireplace. I poured a drink, let it sit on my tongue a second longer than usual, and stared at the ceiling. All the signs had been there: late-night meetings, quick showers when she got home, the coldness in bed, the way she started wearing lingerie on business trips, but not for me. Still, I wanted to believe. Because that's what you do when you love someone, even when you know they're a damn storm in a silk dress. The video kept replaying in my mind. The way she looked at him, like a teenager with a crush. I hadn't seen her look at me like that in years. Maybe a decade. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being her man and became her backup plan. Another message came in. This time from my son, Caleb. Dad, what's going on? Mom's going nuts. She says you left out of nowhere. She said you hired someone to dig into her private life? What's happening? I stared at my phone, then finally tapped to record a voice message. Ask your mom. I hit send and threw the phone across the bed. I couldn't bring myself to tell him yet. Not on the heels of his wedding. Not while he was still riding the high of starting his new life. He deserved a few more days of peace before I ripped that illusion to shreds. But she didn't. She deserved everything that was coming. Before I left, I made sure the investigator had what he needed: names, photos, license plates, dates. And what he found was worse than I imagined. This wasn't her first affair. That sleaze from the wedding? Just the most recent. There was a history. 2 years' worth of discreet hotel stays, fake work retreats, and flirty transactions that made me want to puke. She'd been building a separate life while I was still trying to fix the one we shared. A knock on the cabin door made me flinch. My heart jumped. No one should have known where I was. I opened it cautiously, ready for anything. But it was just a courier. Small envelope. No return address. I opened it slowly. Inside, a single photograph. Madison, in a red dress, straddling that same man from the wedding in what looked like a rooftop bar. His hands were exactly where they shouldn't be. Her face was angled for the camera, mocking, proud. I flipped the photo. Scrawled in pen. She said you were boring. For a moment, my knees nearly gave out. Not because it hurt, but because of the rage that exploded through me, white-hot and volcanic. She thought I wouldn't do anything. She thought I'd roll over, like always. But the difference this time? I didn't care anymore. That night, I drove to the nearest town, found the quietest bar, and bought a notebook. Page 1, Operation Reset. I made a list. Every account we shared. Every piece of property. Every insurance policy. Every password. Every access point she had into my life. Then I made another list. Every secret I'd learned. Every lie she told. Every place she said she was and wasn't. Every person she'd deceived, including our son. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to threaten. I was going to destroy the illusion of her perfect little world, one silent strike at a time. When I got back to the lodge, there were 29 new messages. I didn't listen to a single one. The next morning, I sent her a package. Inside, the photo, a copy of the hotel receipts, and a handwritten note that simply said, "Smile for the cameras." Then I posted the photo anonymously, on a shared family cloud drive she forgot I had admin access to. The one all her friends and family used to exchange baby pictures and family updates. An hour later, the phone started vibrating nonstop again. I took it off the charger, powered it down, and went out for a hike. For the first time in years, the silence felt good. She wanted a performance. She wanted drama. But I was going to give her something worse. A man with nothing left to lose. When I came back from the hike, the lodge manager handed me a note. Someone had called the front desk, left a message. No name, just, "She's crying. She says she doesn't understand why you're doing this." Of course she didn't. Madison had spent so many years twisting the truth that she believed her own version of it. In her head, I was the villain. Cold, unemotional, absent. That's the narrative she needed to justify sneaking around, gaslighting me, turning our marriage into a polished fraud. The irony? I was distant, because loving her was like pouring water into a cracked glass. No matter how much I gave, it was never enough. She needed attention, adoration, drama, and when I stopped chasing her shadow, she found someone else who would. That night, I sat in the dark, sipping whiskey, watching the flames flicker. Then I opened my laptop and started writing the email. Not to her. To our son. "Caleb, I want to start by saying this has nothing to do with you or your new life. I'm proud of you. I always will be. But I can't keep living in a lie, and I won't let you build your life on one, either. You deserve to know the truth. Your mother has been unfaithful for a long time. I tried to fix it quietly. I tried to ignore it. But some things can't be buried forever. I'm sorry you had to find out like this." I hesitated, then added, "If she blames me, if she cries, if she tells you I'm ruining her life, just ask her where she was the night before your wedding. Or who paid for her hotel suite? And why? I hit send. It was done. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A call this time. Caleb. I let it ring. Then again. The third time, I picked up. Dad. His voice was tight. Controlled. Yeah. I saw the photo. Silence. Is it true? Every bit of it. He breathed in sharply. She told me. She said you were just mad because she didn't let you make a speech at the wedding. That you were trying to punish her. I laughed bitterly. Son, I didn't make a speech because I wasn't invited to. Your mother made sure of that. She told the planner I didn't want to speak. She told your wife's family I was socially awkward. I found out the day before. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to ruin your day. Jesus Christ, he muttered. I feel like I don't know either of you right now. I get it. You don't have to pick sides. I just want you to know the truth. Do what you need to do with it. He didn't speak for a few seconds. Then, where are you? Somewhere peaceful. I think I need to get out of town for a few days too. We hung up. I felt a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying fall off my chest. Madison must have finally realized she wasn't holding the strings anymore. I hadn't responded to her texts. Hadn't called. Hadn't yelled. Just acted. The next morning, she showed up. I don't know how she found the place. Maybe she followed the credit card charges. Maybe she tracked my location somehow. I was chopping wood when her white BMW slid up the gravel driveway, wheels crunching the frost. She stepped out in a trench coat, sunglasses, face set in the kind of dramatic expression she probably rehearsed in the mirror. Like she was in a courtroom drama. You really went this far? She snapped before even reaching the porch. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You humiliated me. I leaned on the axe handle. No, Madison. I told the truth. You humiliated yourself. She took a breath, trying to switch tones. Softer now. I made mistakes. I know I did. But you didn't have to. Stop. I raised a hand. You're not here to apologize. You're here to do damage control. Eric, please. Were you going to tell me? Ever? Or was I just supposed to grow old and keep pretending my wife wasn't warming someone else's bed? She flinched, then snapped. It wasn't like that. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. Oh, so that makes it better? I laughed. You screwed around with men who didn't matter? That's your defense. She looked like she was going to cry, or scream, or both. But instead, she just stood there, defeated. I nodded at her car. You should go, before you say something else that makes this worse. She hesitated. You're really done? I looked her dead in the eyes. Madison, I was done the moment you made me invisible at our son's wedding. And then I walked inside and locked the door behind me. She didn't leave right away. I watched from the window as she paced around her car, arms folded, muttering to herself like she was auditioning for sympathy. At one point, she kicked the tire, like the flat rubber could answer the questions spinning in her head. That's when it hit me. She still thought I might take her back. That this was all just a tantrum I'd eventually get over. She didn't understand. I wasn't angry. I was clear. That clarity had been a long time coming. It took years of compromise, silence, and watching her drift further away. The lies didn't come all at once. They crept in like mold in a dark corner of a house, small at first, then unavoidable, then rotting the foundation while you pretended not to smell it. She finally drove off. A few hours later, I got a text from Claire. Did you really kick Madison out of the house? She's staying with Mom and Dad. I didn't answer. Let them figure it out. The next day, Caleb arrived. I picked him up at the small-town bus station, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He looked tired. Not physically, mentally. Like the floor had dropped out from under the family he thought he had. In the car, he was quiet at first. Then he asked, how long? I didn't lie. At least 2 years. Probably more. I only started putting it together after she shut me out of the wedding. But the patterns? They go back further. He rubbed his eyes. God, I feel like such an idiot. You're not, I said. You believed in something because you needed to. That's not weakness. That's trust. He shook his head. She played us both. We spent the rest of the day fishing by the lake. Didn't catch anything. Didn't really try. It wasn't about that. Later that evening, we grilled steaks out back and opened a bottle of bourbon I'd been saving for our anniversary. Funny how plans change. Caleb toasted with me anyway. To cutting ties with toxic people, he said. To freedom, I added. We didn't talk about her much that night. We didn't need to. But the messages started again the next morning. This time, she was less venom, more desperation. We need to talk. For real. Eric, You don't understand what I was going through. You left me no choice but to find comfort elsewhere. That one made me laugh. Like she was the victim. Like my distance gave her permission to crawl between someone else's sheets. The investigator sent me the last part of the file that afternoon. It was a scanned receipt. Madison had opened a joint account with the guy 2 months before the wedding. She was planning a life with him while still using my last name and my money. It wasn't just betrayal. It was business. I sent her one message. You have 48 hours to remove your things from the house. After that, they go in the driveway. No reply, but I knew she'd read it. I was halfway through boxing her designer shoes when Claire called again. She's a mess, Eric. She's saying you've ruined her reputation, that she can't show her face at church. Then maybe she shouldn't have shown everything else to a man she met at a juice bar. Claire gasped, then started laughing. You're cold. No, I said. Just finally awake. The divorce papers were drafted by the end of the week. No back and forth. No mediation. Just a clean cut. She tried to contest at first, but once she saw what I had, photos, receipts, videos, she backed down. The part that hurt most wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing how little she respected me all those years. The jokes behind my back, the constant need for validation, the way she'd touch me less and spend more time on her phone. I'd chalked it up to routine, stress, aging. But no, she just stopped caring. And now? Now she's the one answering questions. Caleb went back to his new life stronger, wiser. He told his mother he needed space. She cried, blamed me, claimed I poisoned him. He didn't buy it. As for me, I stayed in Montana for another month. Fished, hiked, ate alone without feeling lonely, rediscovered silence without tension, smiled at strangers who didn't know my past and didn't need to. And when I finally returned home, I changed the locks. Not out of spite, but because that chapter was done. The house felt different when I walked back in. Not quieter, just clean, lighter. Like her perfume had finally faded from the walls and the air could breathe again. I walked from room to room like I was touring someone else's life. The kitchen, where she used to leave passive-aggressive notes instead of speaking to me. The living room, where we'd sit for hours, both on our phones, pretending we weren't dying inside. The bedroom, where love turned to obligation and obligation turned to avoidance. It was all mine now. And yet, I didn't want any of it. I opened the garage and pulled out every box she'd left behind. Designer bags, overpriced boots, old keepsakes from fake vacations with the girls. I placed them neatly by the curb and texted her one last time. They're outside. Come before it rains. She showed up 2 hours later, tears streaming down her cheeks like someone had cued the waterworks for a made-for-TV drama. No makeup this time. No perfect hair. Just a woman who'd lost control of the narrative. I can't believe you're doing this, she said. I didn't answer. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her pack her broken pieces into her car. You think this makes you strong? She snapped. Throwing me away like I meant nothing? You threw yourself away, Madison. I just finally stopped holding the trash bag. Her eyes flared. You were never there for me. You never saw me. No, I said. I saw you. That's the problem. She stared at me, like she was waiting for some hint of softness, some crack in the armor that she could crawl through. But there wasn't any. Not anymore. I gave you everything, she whispered. I stepped forward, just enough so she could hear me clearly. You gave everyone everything, except your husband. She drove off with the trunk half-latched and a bag still flapping open. I didn't watch her go. I walked back inside, shut the door, and finally felt like I could start rebuilding. Not a house, not a marriage, but myself. In the weeks that followed, word spread. People picked sides. Some of her friends blocked me. Others messaged quietly saying they always suspected something was off. Her sister called me crying, apologizing for not saying anything sooner. She always envied you, she admitted. The stability, the peace. You made her feel small. Funny how love can be twisted into resentment when it's not enough for someone who needs chaos to feel alive. I never replied. I joined a gym, not to get revenge or prove anything, but because I finally had the energy. Started cooking again. Took long drives without a destination. I even went on a date or two, though nothing serious. Not yet. I was still learning how to be alone without being lonely. Then one evening, months later, I got a message. From him. The guy from the wedding. His name was Brandon, apparently. And his message? Pathetic. Man to man. I didn't know she was married. I swear. She said you two were separated. I stared at that line for a while, feeling zero rage, just a strange calm. She said you two were separated. Of course she did. That's how she functioned, making herself the victim, making the truth elastic. It was never about right or wrong with her, just what worked in the moment. I wrote back. She lies. You learn the hard way. You're not the first. Won't be the last. He never responded. A week later, Claire called again. You're not going to believe this, she said. Madison's dating someone new already. He's 25. Works at a nightclub. I laughed out loud. Not out of spite, just disbelief. She finally downgraded to someone who matches her level. Claire chuckled, then paused. You sound happy. Not happy yet, I said. But I'm getting there. And I was. Because you don't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. You heal by walking through the fire, letting it burn every false story you told yourself, until all that's left is something real. And what I had now, that was real. It was mine. A few more months passed. Spring rolled in, and with it came that warm kind of breeze that sneaks in through the windows when you forget they're open. I spent a lot of time on the back porch, listening to nothing in particular. No screaming. No stage crying. No heels clicking down the hallway like a threat. Just quiet. One morning I got up early, went into town for a haircut, and the barber, an older guy named Vince, asked if I was the guy with the wedding scandal. I laughed, nodded. I guess that's who I was now. The man who didn't give a toast. The man who vanished. The man who came back swinging. Hell of a move, Vince said. Heard you buried her socially. I didn't need to confirm it. Enough people had seen the family cloud photo. That one shot of her and Brandon in the rooftop bar told more truth than 1,000 speeches ever could. Apparently, her friend group split like a busted seam. Some blocked her. Some called her a disgrace. And others? Others slid into my messages like they were trying to audition for her replacement. I didn't answer most of them, because by now I had realized something. The pain she caused wasn't about the affair. Not really. It was about everything leading up to it. The way she stopped seeing me as a person. The way I started seeing myself through her eyes, like I was too dull, too dependable, too safe. But I wasn't the boring one. I was just real. She was the one living in a highlight reel she created for strangers. One night, I came across a message request from Caleb again. I hadn't heard from him in a couple weeks, which was unusual. I opened it, expecting a meme or a quick update. Instead, it was a video. It was a clip from his wedding, the one I was barely a part of. The camera panned across the tables, the decorations, the crowd laughing. Then it zoomed in on Madison, whispering into Brandon's ear. The timestamp? Right in the middle of the vows. Below the video, Caleb had written, I rewatched the footage. I'm sorry, Dad. You deserved so much better. I didn't cry. I just nodded to myself. Because yes, I did. And it meant the world to hear that from him. Not because I needed validation, but because it meant he finally saw it too. The full picture. I replied, You're a good man, son. Better than I ever was at your age. Don't let her ruin your image of love. Some of us are just wired for loyalty. That's not weakness. That's strength. A couple of days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. Neat cursive. From Madison. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the table for a full day, daring me. And then, after dinner, I poured a glass of wine and finally tore it open. It was long. Pages of half apologies. Some real, some manipulative. She said she missed us, that the affair wasn't as deep as it looked, that she'd lost herself in the image she was trying to maintain. She talked about therapy, about reflection, about how she couldn't sleep knowing what she'd done. She asked if I'd ever consider starting over. Not right now, she wrote, but maybe someday. A new version of us. One without the pain. I read every word, then folded the letter neatly, placed it in the fireplace, and watched it curl to ash. That version of us she was asking for, it didn't exist. It never did. There was no new beginning when you'd burn the map, the bridge, and the person standing on it. But there was a new beginning for me. Because healing isn't loud. It's not a dramatic speech or a revenge post. Sometimes it's just silence. Choosing peace over chaos. Choosing yourself. And that's what I was finally doing. Summer arrived quietly. The grass grew taller, the sun hung a little longer in the sky, and I stopped counting the days since she left. It was like my life had returned to its original rhythm, before all the noise, before the fake smiles and hollow words. One Saturday, I found myself at the local farmer's market. I wasn't looking for anything specific, Just something about being around people who were actually present felt right. There was a young couple selling fresh bread, laughing like nothing existed outside their little wooden stand. An old man played the saxophone in the corner. The world had kept moving while mine fell apart, and now I was finally catching up. That's when I saw her. Not Madison, but her. Rachel. We'd crossed paths years ago, briefly, at a charity event. She was a school counselor. I remembered that much. Back then, we were both married. Both polite. Both moving through the motions like extras in someone else's movie. But this time, she smiled at me like she recognized more than just my face. We talked. 15 minutes turned into 40. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. No filters. No polished answers. Just a woman who had lived her own brand of heartbreak and came out the other side without turning bitter. I didn't ask for her number. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't desperate to fill the space Madison left behind. I was content letting it stay empty until the right person, if anyone, walked in. Later that evening, as I stood on the back porch watching the sky burn orange and purple, my phone buzzed again. A new number. I let it ring. Then another buzz, this time a voicemail. Curious, I played it. Eric, it's Brandon. Of course. I know I shouldn't be calling, but I thought you should know. She told me she's pregnant. She says it's mine. But something feels off. I did the math. It doesn't add up. I think she's trying to trap me. Like she trapped you. My hand tightened around the railing. Same script. Different man. But this time, it wasn't my problem. I deleted the voicemail and blocked the number. Let him figure it out on his own. He chose to believe her. He saw the warnings, same as I did, and ignored them. Now he had to live in the fire she lit. I walked back inside, poured another drink, and sat in my favorite chair, the one she used to call ugly and try to replace every few months. It was worn, yes, but it was mine. And now, it didn't have to match anyone's aesthetic. It just had to feel like home. In the weeks that followed, I started writing. Not for anyone, just for myself. Little memories, stories, reflections. Not about her, but about who I was before her and who I was becoming now. Sometimes the words flowed like water, other times they dragged like weights. But every line felt honest. One night, I wrote this. When someone shows you their chaos, believe them the first time. Don't love the idea of fixing them. Love yourself enough to walk away when your soul starts whispering that something's wrong. I read it back and realized it was something I wished I'd heard 10 years earlier. And maybe one day, I'll say it to Caleb. Maybe when he's older. Maybe when his heart breaks. Maybe when he wonders why someone he loved turned cold. For now, I just keep building. Brick by brick. Not a new house, or a new marriage, or some picture-perfect life to plaster on a holiday card. Just peace. That's the foundation. And this time, no one's tearing it down but me. It was a Tuesday when I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about her in days. Not a dream. Not a flash of anger. Not even a dull ache in my chest. Just quiet. A clear head. I made coffee, opened the window, let the morning breeze roll in. The kind of day you don't notice when your life is full of noise. The kind I used to miss. I got a text from Caleb that morning. Lunch this weekend? I want to show you something. When we met, he had that same nervous energy I'd seen in him as a kid, right before he told me he broke something and hoped I wouldn't be mad. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was excitement. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a sonogram. I haven't told Mom yet, he said. I wanted to tell you first. I stared at it for a while. That tiny shape on the paper didn't even look real. But it was. And it meant something bigger than all of this. I smiled. You're going to be a great father. You think so? No doubt in my mind. He nodded. Then, after a pause, asked, will you be there when the baby comes? That question hit different. Because for so long, I'd felt erased. Excluded. Like the world kept happening without me. But now, my son, my family, was choosing me, just as I had chosen myself months ago. I looked him in the eyes. I wouldn't miss it for anything. That night, I sat on the porch again. Same chair, same view. But everything was different. Because I wasn't haunted anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was free. Not because I got revenge. Not because she suffered. Not because the world saw what she did. But because I refused to carry her choices anymore. Because I let go. And in letting go, I found something better than justice. I found peace. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone walking through betrayal, it's this. Don't rush to replace the pain. Don't chase closure from someone who never gave you honesty. Don't try to win a war with someone who's already lost themselves. Just get quiet and listen to that voice inside you, the one that still knows who you are. Then rebuild, because sometimes the best revenge isn't fire. It's healing.